dial tone hums without a song. An unfamiliar woman's voice answers.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us in a special St. Patrick's.
How now? This is your willpower speaking. Been to any new states lately? Make sure you stop south of the border for Louisiana. Maybe I should get some chili to sell. Well, the dial tone buzzes with no melody again, and another unfamiliar voice answers. Ahoy, here be the doubloons of your submarine conscience. No need to say we're not here, matey. That's enough, Skipper O'Toole, the first equally unfamiliar voice interjects. This time an unfortunately familiar voice radiates in a confused man's voice. What was that all about? Mr. Coleridge? Can I call you Nathan? Your boss has been a little worried about your well-being, and how many bosses can you say that about? Will you pick up, please? It's a phone, not a brown recluse. He knows you wanted to be a ventriloquist, but that voicemail message is just kind of immature to be existential, don't you think? Just call your boss so I don't get another verbal thrashing. I think Mr. Bice is hard enough on other people already. Tell him you're waiting for greasy blotches of lemon meringue while the next rainbow shadow arrives with a side of Skittles to bowl with for all I care. Phil Aneri, OWT out. Nathan Raymond Coleridge opens his eyes and looks a second time at the nearly sparkling silver knife jabbed on the equally silver and white photograph with the harsh scent of jet black marker still hanging and swinging like a public execution in a rainstorm billowing radiant in his widened nostrils. Which one ever suspected they were the ones seeing things he couldn't next? The ones seeing things were seeing things too. He hoped. Hurricane Mary included hail. Believe me. The broad with the eye reportedly claims in a plead of grainy, muddled tone on the radio. Brought to you by Wickerstone Industries. Ah, but who the devil will believe I've captured them all at last? Nathan asked back with the unrelated thing in his mind. His brown hand wraps around the knife handle and yanks it off the photo of the earliest hallucinations he can recall. In proper sea dog style, the photo drifts and bobs left and right on the choppy, invisible sea of air for Skipper O'Toole in Louisiana to land upright for Nathan to drop the knife. Why did I make you two my answering machine? Lobster legs was too deep sea diving in the alphabet soup ocean, you spiteful putz. Louise had somehow loosened her mouth wrap, but at least answered the honest question. The rest of us ain't here just to replace the ones you can't find for your mundane, dirty work. We do possess your feelings even when it's a hallucination's job to act up. You can't even spell without nation. Shh, shh, my dear. Nathan interjects to the tied-up woman in the corner. That was just a puppet wearing a top hat a minute ago. I'll just make your yap gag tighter so you can control your thoughts, let alone your reactions a little more. Wouldn't want me to tear the photo with Sir Sharp now, would we? Louise shot him a shame-filled grimace of fury, rendered unable to riff again for the time being, unless he had questions for her of which would be timed. She rolled her eyes in dismay instead of despair, but the last time they rolled out of her head completely, and he had scolded her with a wallop upside the head, that despair as well as her nose did not fly and wedge under the dresser's confines worse than Nathan's puppet studio they were now occupied in his apartment. He was quite the tenant to abuse privileges thus far. Louise thought but couldn't bellow, glad after a fashion even a hallucination's conscience thought stream was not one he could dip his all too nosy, invasive business paddle into. Even minding a beeswax can get you stung by the honey protectors now and then, darling. Nathan implied threat by way of fairly honest observation. Then I hope it's by a broken, fatal stinger. Louise zinged back in her mind unheard. At least she hopes he couldn't hear any of her She hopes he couldn't hear any of his hallucinations' thoughts, but he didn't say which yet, nor why theirs over others would, so probably not. I hate to be an underpaid teacher in charge of a class, let alone a building of brats. Nathan uttered to Louise as if to no one, or another hallucination he had not paid enough attention to yet for her to be seen. Or smelled the marker he crossed the photos out with long enough for her to witness as well. At least she'll be back in the other room with the others, and enough with interrogating. Now Nathan shot her a look and drew a deep breath as though, yeah, he can hear our thoughts. He bent over, pulled the knife, brushed off its cold, dull dip on her cheek, as if he'd cut the mouth gag just to jam it down her throat, as if it were possible to moiter a hallucination. Yet what use was being afraid of this jerk with a reason she waited to hear and was about to get? Louise, you're my favorite. Well, you know, you should be flattered. I could undress you for all tied up like you are, but that'd be tasteless. Just yesterday you were a child making that answering machine message. Today you're a long-legged, big-breasted fox with a Bronx accent. They grow up so fast. He sarcastically sobbed on her shoulder. Why me, you may think. I, me. You should swoon to think. Don't make me hold your nose down on the prospective grindstone, girl. It doesn't smell so bad. The last bit sounded like once more as if he wasn't speaking to her. How is a hallucination to have a reality check? How much does it pay? He continued, staring at her dead in the eyes, as though confounded by the reevaluation of a hallucination housing a soul, but no flesh or carve a body. Nathan turned the knife in the blaring light to mirror the two of them, as if a hidden camera were in it, rigged for their own photo. He nary touching Mark too. Even if something were to happen to make him stop seeing her, or she should see someone else, without so much as a hallucinatory injunction clause. Even if she wasn't sure what they'd barter or dowry in a prenup or marriage until he explained what kind of woman she was to him, let alone in regard to vows. Do you hate me, Nathan? Say why. Never hate my flower. The opposite of hate is indifference. Why would I, when I'm so aspirationally cruel to be kind about how you should all behave? Hate with a passion? Wrong again. Don't you hear the sweet note? He elongated the vowel with as much eloquent enthusiasm as music played about the room. Mass, I hear deafening silence, not even the muffled cries of the other hostages. How long until you want information out of them? She sighed. Never as soon or as late as yours, babe. I favor you. They just don't give it on your style, you dig? Lounging casually beside her, Rope says, it's a wonder they don't all resemble me. Now, where would the emphasis of fun be hiding then? Don't make this any more complicated of a challenge, emphasizing how I can't control all of you, lest I stick a remote between your oh-so-luscious, voluptuous chest. Don't scoff nor scorn. You know how honored you should feel. I haven't given you the holographic clothes. I need information for moving on, not to be distracted, less by my own psyche. What kind of creep do you take me for, with our history that I might as well imagine you nude? A gentlemanly, no business interrupted, uptight kind. Thank you, cherub. This time brushing a hand across her face's other too realistically rosy cheek. Granted, no matter how many times I loosen yourself, I can re-envision them tied again in a pop. But that's not so civilized, is it? Her tied rose popped like a bubble, as she hoped it would for the others if they were still in the other room, unless she could focus better on one at a time. There we are. Sorry, no champagne bucket, nor scarlet view, nor mariachi band, at least yet. Geez, thank you. Now, what do you say you get down to business telling me what you want so one of us at least goes away? You've got some style learning to do yourself, bull boy. Nathan sighed as though defeated by the never-ceasing growth of a secret. You're not my hostage per se, but you may feel like one. It's good for you to stay calm. I'll cut to the chase because that's not all I've been cutting. Yeah, you really didn't take your time cutting me loose as a moose. I'd rather you stick to the phrase loosey-goosey. I may be able to read your thoughts, but the cruel irony is you can't mine yet, my pet. You are one of my earliest hallucinations who had stayed the longest. Here he held her hand free of tie. Honestly, I find myself falling for you so you can follow me off a bridge. Just to find yourself 6 feet under in soil with only earthworms for company and a different reason and means and locations in my body, like a pharaoh with no spices nor honey that never spoils. You float right into earth. You're not just the only one who hasn't faded away. So that just makes me the last one you flirted with? You tied us all up to ask us out? Is that what you'd say in another room? No, you don't understand. If I asked you all out, how would I take one over the other? Nathan sighed again and held his head down. The contrary, I've cherished you all so much for different reasons. It was the most extreme form of intervention I can conceive. And I conceived all of you. But what are you saying, Nathan? If you cut even one of them, I did myself until I realized the only other way was to be any less selfish and at least spend time not only constructively rebonding, but retouching each and every one of you how to reteaching each and every one of you how to act like you used to. What? My aging mind might lose any of you any second, like biologically programmed memory that doesn't keep memories as adhesive as a pin or a knife without reason. He kicked the silver utensil across the floor with a clang. What if I hadn't made the last time with any of you memorable enough? Louise hurriedly grabbed his wrist, similarly so tight, and surveyed his clean, indeed, wrists and unmarked forearms. I'm confused. You've been cutting yourself figuratively? There's no blood on that knife. No, I thought I could get rid of all of you at once without actually harming any of you. I tied them up one at a time to remind them and let them go as promptly as an appointment. Slinky Arms, let me tell you, he was not easy to tie up. Per minute, per woman, Elemento P, Skipper O'Toole. Which reminds me, I wish I had recordings of all of you, whether a psychiatrist could hear all of you through my ventriloquism or not. I guess someone can now. Nathan nodded toward the answering machine. They were all as touched and shocked as you are. If you're all going to fade, I wanted to make sure I did it properly. You see, they're not in that room. I also wanted none of you to question where anyone disappeared to, like a barrel over Niagara without you. Because any of you could be next. But out like a light, it did not proceed as planned. He knew that being the sensitive could make her, at least, read his mind and feel a little bit closer. Nathan swung open the office door into Louise's elephant man curtain pulled back proportioned to a blood-curdling shriek that could bother no upstairs nor downstairs neighbors. Nathan lay slumped like a marionette on the desk. A tremendous jet of blood still spurting out of his neck and streaking a red spread weedy trail down his arm, dangling dripping orbs from his fingertips. A pool around his unblinking stare, Louise the apple of his eye's tree. Nathan's soul, standing to the left of the doorway, head in one palm, confessed, "It didn't go the way I planned because I can't make you real, but I worked it out anyway, making myself as abstract a concept as yourself. Now we can be together, independent of one person's dictation of till death do you part. So much as till death do you remain parted." What do you say? Nathan, I'm surprised you were ever this kind of man. Relations of suicide victims often are. No man is rendered crazy enough to go through it with it until he is for love. Nathan's dark palm is held out for Louise's light fingers, and at the slightest contact, the pair vanish into transcendence. Despite her hesitation. Which she lets go of. Mr. Coleridge, if you're in the building, an ambulance is on its way. One of the students saw you in a window wielding a glistening knife.